Hey everybody, how's it going? It's David Penish. I'm your host, and today we have the next MetaDAO ICO on our ownership report. We're going to be covering Laso Finance. Laso is a prepaid crypto card, and they just announced their ICO just an hour ago. So we have it. We're here quite fast. So I just want to welcome Hunter here. Thank you for coming on the show today, Hunter. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I think let's just get right into it, man. And I think for starters, I think what everybody's wondering is tell us a little bit about Laso. What is Laso?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lasso is the most private way that you can spend your crypto. You can get a prepaid card with no ID upload required. You can get prepaid cards to spend online or in person via Apple Pay and Google Pay worldwide. You can get gift cards at thousands of merchants, and you can also initiate bank transfers to debit cards, all while maintaining your privacy. And that works for humans. That works for you and me. We just go in and connect our non-custodial MetaMask, Phantom, whatever wallet, and we're signed up. And that's the bulk of the business. Another side of the business is on the AI agent side, because that frictionless user experience allows your AI agent, like an OpenClaw or Hermes, to go and get their own card to make their own transactions or send their own bank transfers without a human in the loop. You can just send them a prompt, and they can go do everything that the humans on Lasso can do. Those are kind of the two product lines, but our focus is on the enabling private spending.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And I think what's also an interesting question to ask is, why did you end up choosing MetaDAO? How did you, what was the reasoning behind, choosing to do an ICO of anything, like instead of going through the VC route? Because from, I just read the article, and it seems like you guys are already a revenue generating business. So I'm wondering why you are doing the raise at all.
Yeah, so we're on average we're getting maybe $730,000 to $750,000 of volume into the platform, generating $30,000 to $35,000 in revenue each month with a over 90% gross margin on it. So it's a cash flowing business, and it has been since the beginning. I started it really about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, and it's been cash flowing that whole time. And over that period, we've been approached so many times to do ICOs or to do traditional VC. Traditional VC didn't really make sense because we're cash flowing already, right? There isn't really a need to take capital there. And over the years, all the ICO options were, at least in the beginning of Lasso, the environment was very, very unclear. There wasn't clarity on what kind of tokens can be launched and what can't. And so that kind of made it a non-starter. Later on, maybe last year, became more clear what kind of tokens could be launched. But for lack of a better term, the meta in last year was to do these pump.fun launches, where you have these tokens that are totally divorced from the business, and you have to do all this market making tricks to stabilize the chart and all this kind of weird stuff. And ultimately you just end up with this token that it has a name in common, but nothing else. In April this year, I was in San Francisco, and I went there for the Solana Coliseum hackathon, which was just announced that Laso Finance won that. So we'll be joining the Solana Coliseum Accelerator in July. I was there in April, and I went there with no intention kind of raising, because we've explored so many different ICO options. And I met Profit and Mista on the MetaDAO team, and it just immediately clicked. Read through all their docs, and MetaDAO is really, in my opinion, the first platform or launch pad that has found that right balance, where the token holders really do go along with the company on the journey in success. It aligns the holders and the team, the business, and the investors in a way that other types of tokens didn't, which was really exciting for me. It just clicked immediately. And so being able to do that launch and be able to execute faster is really important. But what's most important for me is that the Laso users get to take part in Laso's success. Especially, there's some users that have been with me for 3 years, and they've been so impactful. So much of Laso, the product, is driven by what the users tell us and tell me. And so far, they've only been able to get rewarded through like referral links, which is close, but it's not quite the same as what a MetaDAO token accomplishes. And that is really kind of my number one reason for wanting to do this, is to have the users of Laso be able to be aligned with the success of Laso in a way that other ICOs or VC wouldn't allow.
Talking about the raise, I think let's go into much more detail about all the details about the raise. So for anybody who hasn't seen the article, or anybody who's been living under a rock, how much are you guys raising, and at what valuation?
Yeah, it's a minimum raise of 750,000. There's a blind cap, meaning there's a maximum on the raise, but that's not stated, and that just helps prevent whales or snipers to come in and take an allocation that's too large. The valuation is at a $3 million post, and so that results in essentially the ICO representing a minimum of 25%, but likely it'll be higher than 25%. But a minimum of 25% of the ICO. For the participants, some amount goes to running the pools, Meteoro pools, AMMs, and then a maximum of slightly over 67% a team allocation. But that can be lower depending on the success of the raise. That team allocation is given. First of all, there's a 24-month lockup, so absolutely no team tokens can be given out until 24 months have passed. And they're only given in tranches based on the performance of the token. So if after 24 months, the token price is at the same price that we launched at, nothing is allocated to the team. If the token is at 2x of the ICO price, then 20% of the team allocation is given. So it's 20% of 67 or 50. At 4x, another 20%, and so on. I think you had a second question in there, and I missed it.
No. I think what I really notice immediately when I look at the token supply and the team performance package is like it is much higher than usual. I believe usually there's like a 40%-ish team performance package. However, this is much higher than that. Like if we just look at the base case, it is 67%. So could you elaborate on what went into that, or why you guys chose to go with this team allocation performance package?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big difference here is Laso's been operating for the past 3 years and is already generating kind of an annual profit, which just isn't the typical stage that MetaDAO companies are at. And so that kind of gives that larger valuation. Now, of course, we could have raised more cash to make that allocation kind of more even and more in line with other MetaDAO launches, but it wouldn't be prudent to raise more money than we need just to hit this kind of magical allocation number. I think the one thing I really want to point out here is that in the base case, we're getting to a $3 million post valuation, or a 2.25 pre-valuation. It is considerably lower than what Laso would get in like a traditional VC round, right? It's like in a traditional VC round, offers that I've discussed with VCs before, it's 4x that valuation, kind of almost at a minimum. So that price is extremely low for the business that you're getting. And I think that drives some of the economics. I think like at a 2.25 valuation on something that's throwing off almost $500,000 in profit is like in the crypto space is a very good ratio.
So you don't see it as a disadvantage of against like VC deals being higher valuation than what it is for you?
I mean, it's definitely something that I evaluated a lot. I think I believe that I could be greedy and go with the VC route and would get a higher valuation, undoubtedly. But for me, what truly is more important is that I get to have all these users that are now on the journey of building Lasso with me, and they wouldn't in the VC route, and that is just a much more important facet for me. I mean, just in terms of kind of my own personal feelings of gratefulness of giving back, and then also just from a business sense, where it's if you're a Lasso user and you get to take part in the success and drive the direction of the business, then you're more likely to use the service and tell your friends about it. So there's a more hard numbers angle to that as well.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. Like there's definitely some very good advantages that MetaDAO offers. Like the whole community alignment, I think, is very big and sort of underrated at this moment. So I definitely agree on some of those points.
One more advantage. Sorry, one more advantage.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's just my personal gratefulness of giving back piece. There is the sort of, as a user, if you're holding the Lasso token, you're more incentivized to use it and tell other friends. And then number three, one point I missed is that you're more incentivized to tell me and tell us how to build a better product, which has been like probably the most valuable asset Lasso has grown, is that the users are really engaged. They see that whenever they give feedback, that it's implemented right away, or drives those product decisions. It's kind of this sort of goodwill like asset that you build up. Like Coca-Cola has this brand it's kind of maybe harder to put a number on, and there's this kind of asset of longtime users understand that the feedback that they give gets implemented. And if you're a holder, you're more incentivized to give more feedback in a more detailed way, and that's one more benefit.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. I mean, even if I just think of myself, when I hold one of these ownership coins, it just makes me want to be more involved and use the product. And I think like all the raises so far have been a testament to that, in my personal opinion, and from what I've seen others talk about as well. So, okay, we know now we know the token allocations. We sort of get that, but can you talk a little bit about the monthly allowance? Let's just say for the base case, which is the 750K, your monthly allowance is going to be $50,000. So my first question is, what are you going to spend it on? Is it hiring, growth? What are the plans with the raised funds, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's the allowance, and answers about that. Then there's the raised funds, which are slightly two different things. So our monthly allowance is 50,000. Originally, what we kind of started with was actually 30,000, and that 30,000 would be covering salaries for me, for a new marketing and user experience role from a longtime user that if you've been in the Lasso Finance Telegram, you'll know who this person is, but phenomenal on the marketing user experience side, be able to hire him and be able to scale up our customer support from just 8 hours a day to 24 hours a day. So 30,000 would be covering kind of those salaries, and that cash is then freed up to increase volume on Lasso through a combination of fee reductions and doubling down on marketing channels that are working well. And the reason that increasing that volume is really important is as Lasso's volume increases, like say volume increases 2x, revenue doesn't just 2x, it probably increases 120%, because as our volume goes up, we get higher interchange share from the issuers or higher discounts. So you doubling revenue doesn't just double profit, it increases profit quite a bit because your costs decrease. And so getting that higher is really important. And we want to do that through dropping fees on the remaining services that we do still have fees on, to hopefully get that closer, not hopefully, but to get that closer to a user experience of a credit card. And then doubling down on those marketing channels, like Google Ads, for example, right now is getting a 16x LTV to CAC ratio, lifetime value to cost of acquisition ratio, which is extremely high. And so being able to scale in on those will help grow a lot. So originally we started with that 30,000. That was kind of just a little two-step playbook. In that flow, essentially, we're pulling out the 30,000 every month to pay those salaries, and then paying those expenses essentially off chain. Some of those vendors have to pay from the banks and everything. And we realized that that's just not as good or crypto native as allowing that revenue to immediately flow into the treasury and then being pulled out, so that the holders actually get to see that value coming in on chain. And so something that some infrastructure we're working on right now is getting that revenue to be kind of swept out into the treasury every day, so users and holders can see that the service is generating a revenue. So that will be, assuming it can execute on that infrastructure, that'll be visible whenever the ICO opens on June 30th.
Yeah, so I want to talk about something very interesting that I saw in the article, which I don't think I've actually seen any other ownership coin do, which is like in advance announce the first proposal, or mention the first proposal. So if you could give me, just break it down for me, what the plans are for the first proposal, and just how you're thinking about this whole proposal process in general.
Yeah. So to expand on the use of funds, which is given in the X article, kind of the first use case is covering the salaries that we're kind of currently having to pay now with those extra funds, and those are applied to increasing volume through dropping fees and doubling down on marketing channels. Kind of that third use of funds is refilling our capital float for our cycle, whatever we're paying the issuers. And kind of the short version of that is, we're taking orders 24/7. You send us 100 USDC, we have pre-funded US dollars generally, or euros or pounds at our card issuing partners on normal fiat rails. We already have funds there, and so you send us 100 USDC. We let our issuer know to create a $100 card for you, and our balance at that issuer debits down. We have a couple different issuing partners. Each one has their own pre-funded balance. It's Laso balance. We're taking orders 24/7. So that means from Friday at 5:01 p.m. until Monday at 8:59 a.m., we're taking all these orders, but the banks are closed. And to refill those issuers, we have to transfer. We essentially have to do at least one, in most cases two, wire transfers from our exchange partner to our bank account to our issuer, and we can't do that over the weekend. So as a result, sometimes we run out of stock, which is just a very silly problem to have, and lots of users have hit that in the past. And so possibly one of our first proposals will be allocating some amount of those funds to have more than extra stock at each of these issuers. Right now we have a pretty good system that looks at like a 3 and 7 day rolling trailing volume for each product and each corresponding issuer, and then determining the amount to refill in the issuer based on those trailing volumes. But of course, sometimes one product is very, very popular on Saturday night in a way that wasn't reflected in past history, and we run out of stock on that. So building it up so we don't run out of stock is like a very obvious fix. And that is likely to be our first proposal. But of course, the proposals are also driven by the community. So there may be something else that comes up.
I also want to touch a little bit more. I know you already mentioned and you talked about it, but I want to emphasize this point of so the treasury and the revenue flowing back to treasury. I think that could be a little bit tricky, especially when it comes to off-chain revenue. Do you guys have any off-chain revenue, by the way, or is your revenue mostly on-chain? I think that's something that people might wonder when they're looking at how the business makes money. So could you tell me how you guys make revenue, where it is, and how it will flow into the treasury, and maybe when we can expect it? Now, I don't expect like exact days of when the first dollar is going to hit the treasury, but just the general rough plans around that.
Yeah, the revenue is all accrued on chain right now. And the way that we earn revenue is through a combination of fees charged to users and discounts or interchange shares supplied from the issuer. So on some of our card options, like the USA card, for example, there's 0 fees to users and a discount that we get from the issuer. And so we earn that as soon as your order is placed. You'd see if you buy a $100 card, then it would represent around like $4 of revenue. It varies, and that would just immediately go into the treasury at the end of the day. Kind of people are sending payments in. Once a day, we sweep all those payments to send to our exchange, and then at that point, we'll kind of split out the revenue earned for the day, and send that to the treasury, and the rest is sent to our bank accounts to refill at issuers.
Are there any future sources of revenue that you're eyeing at the moment, or after the raise? Because I think there's a couple of things that it will unlock that might be significant source of revenue.
Yeah. So there's the 3 use cases of the treasury that I described. It's covering the salaries for the team and scaling up the team. Up to this point, it's primarily just been me as a solo founder, along with one customer service agent. And I've got help from friends periodically, but just been me. So scaling up the team will be really exciting. We have that. We have a combination of fee reductions and doubling down on our marketing spend. Number 3 is increasing our float for that capital refill cycle so we don't run out of stock. And then 4 is improving our agentic programs, which will have some setup costs. Right now, pretty much 96% of our volume is from humans. It's you or me connecting our wallet, leaving 4% for non-organic intelligence represented as AI agents. Right now, they can do all the kind of spending we do via prepaid cards, gift cards, and outbound bank transfers. But what I'm really excited about is enabling these agents to take part in agentic entrepreneurship. The company that's kind of executing really well on this is Polsia, Polsia, and our partner Locus, Locus, and I'll talk a little bit more about Locus in a second. I'm excited about agentic commerce, and I think the part that people get mistaken about it is when they think about agentic commerce, they think about like I'm just telling my agent to go and like buy my groceries or plan my trip or whatever, and sort of just enhance my ability to execute consumer consumption, which still right now, it's not, I haven't really seen many compelling use cases where it's that much better. Like billions and billions and billions of dollars of very, very smart people, essentially everybody at Amazon, for example, has worked on making the consumer purchasing experience on the web really, really good. And so even getting agents to being at parity for that, to make it better to order through an agent than it is to find an item on Amazon, yeah, it's very, very difficult. And if it does get to that point, which I think it will, it's still just an incremental improvement, right? Like it's essentially, the same as, let's say like the Link Stripe product, which makes checking out easier. And it's very important and it grows GDP. It is an incremental improvement over an existing workflow. What I'm very excited about is on the agentic entrepreneurship side. And so it's not using agents to go and buy things I, as a consumer or maybe as a business owner, would already do. It's about using the agent to build businesses that otherwise wouldn't exist. And either wouldn't exist because humans don't want to go through the work to explore if it's possible, or it just wouldn't be possible for the humans to do it. It wouldn't economically make sense. Tomorrow we have a podcast or interview that I did with Profit at MetaDAO, releasing, and he goes to kind of an example on that. But one of the pieces that the agents will need there is not just the ability to spend, but also be able to receive funds. And so something that'll be coming in Q3 is agentic controlled bank accounts. So your agent can receive funds from the business it's made into its bank account and be able to send transfers out to pay vendors. That'll have some kind of setup cost and will require enhanced KYC on the owner, but it's an important piece that agents need to transact on the internet. And along with that, also a reloadable credit card bin. So when those pieces are together, the agent will have these 5 different tools of prepaid, gift cards, credit cards, outbound bank transfers and inbound bank transfers. And now your agent can do every single thing a human can do, and it can execute on everything that an internet entrepreneur like you or me or any of the viewers can do. And that's a really, really important unlock. So that'll be one of the first big build outs as well.
Is there any estimate of the total, the TAM of what you're trying to target here, like the total addressable market? Like what sort of industry is Laso targeting to take over?
So on the human spending side, right now the annual kind of stablecoin card spending volume is like $19 billion, and that is growing really quickly. That's like cards like your Coinbase card, Crypto.com card, things like that. And kind of our goal is, Laso's goal is to be able to create the user experience of those cards while maintaining your privacy via prepaid cards. And I think some of the immediate ways that we can get to getting to parity with your Coinbase card, for example, is getting everything dropped to no fees, and then also getting rewards. And to be able to get to those no fees, we just need to increase volume a little bit, and then to getting to issue rewards. As volume increases, we're able to integrate deeper on the issuing stack. Right now, we're kind of at a very high level with a lot of intermediaries. And the more that volume increases, the closer we are to issuing directly with the issuing bank. When we integrate directly with the issuing bank, we can gain interest on those deposits or values that are loaded onto the cards, rather than them essentially being like unusable funds at the moment. And with that interest generated, can return rewards back to user. And we could take a significant chunk of that stablecoin card spending by creating essentially an equivalent user experience, but with an important core feature of privacy that is not possible from the card standpoint. So that's one vertical. And actually also to give a kind of more shorter term immediate a goal, Laso and the top kind of its top 2 competitors combined for over $500 million of volume every year. And so there's a clear 10 to 12x without even getting to the user experience of a credit card. So that's on the human side. On the agentic side, that TAM is not really clearly defined, right? Because if we could try to calculate TAM in terms of what I talked about earlier, which is like this enhancing consumer consumption. And I don't know, you can look at like checkout products, like how does Klarna increase conversion rates and kind of scale it out that way. But I really think that's not the interesting thing to focus. Like, what is the really world impactful change? And it's autonomous agents executing on business objectives, getting revenue and getting profit by themselves. And that's just an unprecedented market. It's sort of like if you hear Elon talk about the TAM of his autonomous physical world robots, the TAM is sort of unbounded, because it's the human, the TAM of like human labor and intelligence. Right now in agentic commerce, we're very early. If you've read the Crossing the Chasm book, we're at that 1% tinkerer phase, and so things are still not well defined. Everybody's trying to figure things out. That's why I really want to execute on having that full suite of tools for the agent to be able to use, so that as those verticals start to take off, it could be through programs like Locus's founder program. They have a sort of a founder award program for agentic entrepreneurship. As those verticals take off, that we have all those tools ready to be able to execute and support it.
Amazing. And now, I mean, you've already talked a little bit about this, but I do want to. I think we're starting to approach the end of the stream. So I would like to talk a little bit about the roadmap. What's next for? We already kind of talked about it loosely here and there, but it would be nice if we could have like here at the end like one explanation of the roadmap, what's next for Laso, and
Yeah. So just to recap for everybody, the ICO opens on Tuesday, June 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern and ends on July 3rd, which is a Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So ending in time for July 4th for US users like myself. Our immediate objectives in the next kind of 3 months after that launch will be onboarding that new user experience and marketing hire. Long-time user, it's been a user for Lasso for the past 3 years and has already driven a lot of the product shape. Phenomenal. Staffing up our existing support team from just 8 hours to 24 hours. Experimenting with those fee reductions, see how it affects volume, doubling down on marketing channels, and then enabling those US bank accounts for agents. We have that kind of vendor lined up, and that'll be coming a post-launch, so that agent FBO accounts will be the first kind of user visible product level change that you'll see. Those are kind of our immediate months 1 through 3. Execute on those. On Q4 2026, that'll be months 4 through 6. We're building out the rest of the agentic suite with reloadable credit card bins. So anywhere prepaid cards are not accepted, your agent can fall back to a credit card, and kind of building out those interfaces. You mentioned earlier about on-chain revenue versus off-chain, specifically on the agentic side. I think an important piece there will be enabling essentially on-ramping to your agent via traditional bank transfers. For the agent use case, the crypto is not necessarily necessary, and so enabling there. Q1 2027 is getting to the pieces that I'm very, very excited about, which is ideally we've reached some of those increased volume goals, so that we're able to drop the fees and start to generate rewards for users, getting really close to that user experience of a credit card, because we're not there yet, but we can get there. And I think months 7 through 9 is where we start to get close to that level where we have no fees and the rewards on spend, same kind of rewards you would get on your credit card. And then get into Q2 2027, ideally we're at those high enough volume levels where we're actually integrating at the issuing bank level, which allows us to be much more capital efficient, generate much more significant rewards, and with much higher stability and control over the spending system. And if we execute on all those goals, kind of at the end of Q2 in 2027, which would be 12 months from now, we now have the user experience of a credit card through the Lasso platform with fees and rewards and acceptance rates. I'm sorry, no fees and rewards and credit card level acceptance rates, and a full suite of tooling so your agent can do anything that an internet entrepreneur would do. And it's all possible and enabled by this race.
Well, thank you. that was really good. Really, a lot of information was covered here. Pretty much all the questions I think most people would have. Do you think we missed anything? Maybe you want to say something that we didn't touch on here about anything regarding the raise. And for anybody who's listening, we also have a podcast coming out very soon where we dive much deeper into what Lasso is, the product, and a little bit of a background on Hunter. It was a really good episode, so I suggest everybody stay tuned for that. And it's going to be a little bit longer, so we have a little bit more time to go deeper into all the other topics that weren't covered here. So Hunter, I'll give the stage to you. If you want to have any last words, feel free to take the stage now.
Yeah. A couple more things about what will be upcoming during this week. We're not just going to make this announcement and then just let you know again on the 30th. We'll kind of have important, relevant content coming out each day. One of the first pieces will be getting a public kind of volume and revenue dashboard, so you can see what kind of revenue you'd expect to be flowing to the treasury once the token is live, kind of historical volume, what volume has been the past 30 days, things like that. So that'll be kind of one of the first pieces of content you'll be able to see and dive into. As the following day, I should have had this doc open before I started talking. The following day, we'll be going to kind of more of the history about me starting Lasso. I think something that's important is my last company that I co-founded was instant off-ramping service for people, for users in the United States, which we sold in 2024. So you get to hear a little bit more about like why Lasso started, kind of my history, and then really why Lasso exists kind of at a core a level, not just as a business, but as a mission. And go a little bit deeper onto those future products that are coming out, both in the human and agentic side. And then we'll have, along with some other content from like Shoal Research, from the podcast with Profit, on the final day, the day before the race, we're going to have another live stream very similar to what we did today, where we get to cover just really tactical things, like what questions have built up over the weeks. So we have this one consolidated doc that everybody, Lasso, MetaDAO, ownership, everybody involved is consolidating feedback we get from users. So please give us those questions early so we can make sure we have clear answers and content to be able to answer that over this next coming 8 days and also the day before. So that's, yeah, for lack of a better phrase, stay tuned, because we'll be having updates every day until the 30th.
Well, I think that concludes this episode. Thank you, Hunter, for coming on today. And thank you for all the listeners and / viewers for tuning in for today's live stream. It was very nice to talk to everybody, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.